Hello, everyone. While in school, we have all learned the three dimensions of space: length, width, and height. And later on, we learned about another dimension called time. But what if there are more dimensions that we can't see? Today, in our next episode of Stay Curious by Enoki, let's explore one of the biggest questions in physics. How many dimensions are there in the universe?
First, let us have a brief idea about what are dimensions. Dimensions are the directions in which we move: forward and backward, left and right, up and down. These are the three dimensions of space. Then there's time, which takes us from the past to the future. But are there more?
According to superstring theory, the fifth and sixth dimensions are where the notion of possible worlds arises. If we could see on through to the fifth dimension, we would see a world slightly different from our own. It would give us a means of measuring the similarity and differences between our world and other possible ones.
In the sixth, we would see a plane of possible worlds, where we could compare and position all the possible universes that start with the same initial conditions as this one. That is the Big Bang. In theory, if you could master the fifth and sixth dimension, you could travel back in time or go to different futures.
In the seventh dimension, you have access to the possible worlds that start with different initial conditions. Whereas in the fifth and sixth, the initial conditions were the same and subsequent actions were different. Here, everything is different from the very beginning of time. The eighth dimension again gives us a plane of such possible universe histories, each of which begins with different initial conditions and branches out infinitely, hence why they are called infinities.
In the ninth dimension, we can compare all the possible universe histories, starting with all the different possible laws of physics and initial conditions. In the 10th and final dimension, we arrive at the point in which everything possible and imaginable is covered. Beyond this, nothing can be imagined by us lowly mortals, which makes it the natural limitation of what we can conceive in terms of dimensions.
So why don't we see these extra dimensions? Scientists think they might be so tiny and compact that we just can't detect them with our current tools. They're like tiny crumpled pieces of paper, too small to notice in our everyday lives.
In 2017, scientists observed a collision between two neutron stars. This event produced gravitational waves that traveled across the universe. If extra dimensions existed and were large enough, these waves would have weakened as they spread out. But they didn't, suggesting that if these dimensions do exist, they are incredibly tiny, much smaller than we can detect.
There's also a theory that when protons collide at high speeds, they could create tiny black holes that briefly open up a bubble of interdimensional space. If this happened, it could dramatically change our universe. But since this hasn't occurred, it's another hint that these extra dimensions might be very small.
So, how many dimensions are there? We're not sure yet. The latest research suggests that if extra dimensions do exist, they're so tiny that they don't affect much in our universe. But the mystery is still out there, and as we continue to explore, we might find answers. Or who knows, maybe even more questions.
That's all for today. See you all in the next episode of Enoki. Until then, stay curious, stay safe.